Mr. Coffman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's been discussion about some of the banking regulators, and in my community, some of the smaller community banks were particularly hard hit, and their concern was that they felt that there was an overreaction, that to some degree that they were paying for the sins of the big banks during the financial crisis, and that for example, their capital reserve had a 20% increase early on in this crisis, and their market niche seemed to be commercial real estate, which was particularly hard hit. I wonder if you could comment in terms of small business access to capital related to community banks. In your view, was there an overreaction by the regulators? Anybody?
Well, we're a little bit larger than a community bank, having $14 billion in assets, but our commercial real estate division was the most hard hit in our bank. So as far as an overreaction is concerned, the perception is that the amount of capital that you have on reserve now is going to be looked at. If they say that it's supposed to be 10%, then you really need to have 13% or 15%. So as such, I don't think that they've overreacted. Well, are you saying the regulators overreacted?
Regulators to the community banks.
I don't know the answer to that. I just don't know if they overreacted, but they reacted appropriately in some cases.
Yes.
From a borrower perspective, most of the borrowers I know think there was an overreaction, especially at the smaller bank level, because that was the most given response as to why they couldn't get the same credit they'd had in the past. We're facing increased regulation, and that's so from a borrower's perspective, there certainly is a perception out there, and just as a general comment, I mean and the regulators in good times, it seems to me they ought to be a little more conservative and trying to get you to put stuff back, and then in bad times, seems like they ought to be trying to help the good borrowers get through the tough times, because we're talking about people who have had long history of performance, and because of really something they really didn't have much control over, are having to struggle. Now, unfortunately, I think the community banks are in exactly the same position. So that again gets back to our RFA program, where we're trying to match these two people. We kind of both have been in the same position, see if we can't get together and get some supply meeting the demand situation.
I've had a number of community bankers inform me that that even if they had performing loans in commercial real estate, that those loans were downgraded, and they should have been just maybe a watch put on them, but not downgraded to cause them to pull money available for lending into their capital reserve. Anybody else comment on this? Okay. Well, just one last related question, and that is in terms of job creation, which is the subject of today's conference. Access to capital is very important. But what in the majority of, I was a small business owner, I had a sub-business corporation, and the majority of small businesses are structured as sub-business corporations. In terms of job creation, what would be the impact of increasing the income tax rates on job creation, knowing that in sub-business corporations that essentially that's the tax rate that you pay? Would anybody like to comment on that? Please.
Sucker. I'm a sucker for this. As a small business owner, as you've already articulated, most of the money just flows through from our businesses to our personal income tax return. And I don't, there's nobody going to tell you we want more taxes. I'll tell you right now, though, I'm not afraid to pay what is fair and what needs to be paid. But on the other hand, we've been hit with the alternative minimum tax, as a lot of people have been hit by that over a period of time as it just creeped up. People that their business income is flowing through to their personal tax return, and they're not getting any deductions, and it's difficult. I know it sounds like a lot of money, but I'm telling you, in today's environment, you're trying to survive and capitalize your business out of your personal situation, which is what all small business people do. there are some issues as a taxpayer. I don't want to have to pay more taxes. I'm willing to pay my fair share, and I want to pay my fair share, but I also have to survive. And I will tell you, if you start taxing, and unfortunately I'm afraid the same situation with healthcare, you're going to lose jobs. You don't realize it, but you are, in the real world, you're going to lose jobs. It has to happen because there's no other, we're squeezed so tight right now that there's no place for it to go.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.